Hello, teacher. My name is Juan Camilo Sanchez, and I am going to talk about the comics. A comic book is a comic magazine or a simple comic. It's a publication that consists of comics are the form sequential juxtaposed panels that represent individual senses. Through a natural evolution, cartoon developed into the comics first through of the publication, containing compilation of cartoon reprints. This as books with original cartoon artwork before reaching the critical mass through his creation the superhero. I explained the Platoon Age. This age, published in 1897, The Yellow Kid in McFadden's Flats is considered to be the first comic book, in so much that it bore the phrase comic book on the back cover, far from the full-color glossy comic books of today. These books feature black and white reprints of popular newspaper comic strips. In February of 1935, DC Comics precursor National Allied Publications published Newfound #1, the company's first comic book and the first ever comic consisting of completely original material. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, soon to be now of creating the Superman, began working on Newfound in October of 1935. In the March of 1937 edition of Detective Comics #1, Siegel and Shuster introduced their characters slam broadly for the forever of Superman. The second age is the Golden Age. The Golden Age of comics books began in June of 1938 with the debut Superman in Action #1. Batman premiered less than a year later in Detective Comics number 27. In October of 1939, Marvel Comics predecessor timely publication released Marvel Comics #1, which included the Human Torch, Angel, and Prime Namor the Submariner. In 1940, DC Comics Flash and Green Lantern debuted. Captain America and DC's Wonder Woman were first published in following. The third age is Silver Age. The censorship of comic books only grew in post-war period. After Five Secrets, Frederick Wharton published a book, Endless Seductions of the Innocent, claiming that comics were corrupting young American minds, and more specifically, the characters like Wonder Woman and Batman and Robin promote homosexual ideals. This censorship frenzy and panic led comics companies to cancel some of their most popular titles in genres other than superheroes. By the 1916, a shift happened specifically in Marvel Comics. Stan Lee became the lad of Marvel's creative team, creating what we know as the Marvel Method, which allowed for wider collaboration between artists and writers. This period saw the rise of complex heroes like Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and the Hulk, with darker storylines and more human personalities. The fourth age is Bronze Age. The Bronze Age singled or a more realistic style within comic books as a younger generation of artists, including Neil Adams, John Byrne, George Perez, Frank Miller, and others, replaced who had helped to create the superhero comic books in 1930 and 1940. This is the dates of the age 2 and 3. In 1971, the Comics Code Authority released some standards going so far to state vampire woods and werewolves shall be permitted to be used handled in the classic tradition. In addition, socially conclusion stories become more numerous in the 1970s, most famously during the collaborative adventures of Green Lantern and Green Arrow as they fought against rising pollution and the social injustice. Age. The aforementioned Dark Age was defined by both the darker tones in comic style and the darker topics. A very good example of this style in Watchmen, which reflects the disenchantment with the American superhero and the more adult themes that were becoming popular in the medium. Many of these narratives are still popular today, especially in DC Universe, such as Batman's The Dark Knight Return, however, sold somewhat across at the board, lending to Marvel Comics, filing for bankruptcy in 1996. This period ends with a massive sales slump and industry downsizing caused by a speculative market where excess merchandise. Too many collector's editions and too many series were produced in a inflated the market. The sales slump contributed to the market of Marvel Comics in 1996. And the final age is Modern Age. The publication of Alex Ross' Kingdom Come in 1996, which harkened back to the optimism and strength of Silver Age superheroes, marks the beginning of the Modern Age. During this period, comic book publishers attempt to rectify their mistakes by creating a learner-boosting business plan and putting more effort into a fewer number of projects. That we finished talking about the theory of comic books history, I want going to talk about the most influential comic book writers of all times. The first is Todd McFarlane. McFarlane is a great writer imaginative who forged in the world of comic books after making his mark after Marvel in the late 1980s and early 1990 by revamping classic titles such as Incredible Hulk and Spider-Man. McFarlane broke away to form his own brand, Imagine Comics, and created his most influential character, Spawn. Spawn has had a huge impact on writers and artists who have come up in the world of comics over the past 2 decades. John Byrne. John Byrne, whose writing for the Fantastic Four is considered a golden age for the title, while his storylines for the X-Men in 17 continues to be reproposed by other writers today. In 1986, DC Comics hired by John Byrne to recast and relaunch Superman, arguably the most iconic superhero of all the time. The third writer is Mark Millar. Not only is Mark Millar the writer of Marvel's popular Civil War era, which is being adapted into a movie year with Captain America Civil War, but he is also the creative mind behind influential comics such as Wanted, Kick-Ass, and Marvel Knights. Spider-Man. In the contemporary world of the comics, few writers have been more influential than Mark Millar. The fourth writer is Alan Moore. Alan Moore began his career writing for Swamp Thing, which he rescued from the Dustin at DC. Nearly every single one of Moore's comics stories have been made into a movie. Jeff even Swamp Thing. Alan Moore, who is eternally called the best graphic novel writer in the history, and one of the most important British writers of the last 50 years. Writer is Frank Miller. Frank Miller has developed original creation Sin City and 300, as well as shaping and then reshaping the Marvel characters. Daredevil. Miller began his career by taking over to the founders characters of Daredevil and making him on the Marvel Universe most popular superheroes. He created the characters of Elektra and Bullseye,